Role-Playing Public Radio is brought to you by Easy Roller Dice. Ever need a bunch of dice for gaming? We all do. But who wants to pay 85 cents a piece at your local shop? And don't even think about the big bag of random junk, oddities, and damaged dice from those other guys. At EasyRollerDice.com, you can snag 10% off all products right now, and that means you can grab the giant 105-count bag of Factory First dice that comes with a velvet bag for less than $23. Shipping is also always free in the USA. Go to www.easyrollerdice.com and enter code RPPR at checkout and save 10% now.
All right, this is RPPR episode 111, and the Nat 20 goes to acting in games.
Clearly not us.
Yes.
We are not actors.
Hey, this is Ross Payton with Role-Playing Public Radio.
I'm Tom Church.
With me as always.
Always.
But
always and forever.
I was going to say that. I was going to introduce you.
Well, I thought I'd shake things up a little bit.
You have totally...
Because actors do that. They
do.
shake things up.
Well, some actors do.
Or some, yeah. The good ones.
Okay.
And I am clearly a thespian.
All right. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about acting in games. Now, neither of us have a professional acting background.
No.
So it's going to we're not going to talk about method acting or anything like that. But there's some tips that will help, make your games more entertaining, hopefully. So, but before we get that, we do have a bit of news.
Why don't you go ahead and read that news, Ross?
Yes. First off, we are on Patreon, as you may have heard.
And you guys are awesome.
Yes, our RPPR Patreon is doing very well, over $1,000 a month right now. So we've reached all our current milestones. I'm wanting to see how this goes for a few months before I add any more milestones. But we have added 2 online games. The first one has already been posted, has been made available for free as a download, not even to the public. You can get it without even being a member of Patreon, and that was a Base Raiders game I ran for 2 backers, where they fought the Retro Gang, a gang of hipsters who used vintage death rays.
Oh, man.
Yes.
Hipster fighting.
One of them was a sorcerer who, he was an obscure god. You probably never even heard of him. So...
Hey, is that a vintage jacket?
Yes, it's a vintage god.
It's like, no, it's a now jacket. Boom.
So we also have a desktop wallpaper art commemorating an incident in Shanghai, the Call of Cthulhu game.
Oh yes,
shark fighting, and we will have more art.
Thank you.
You can get the desktop wallpaper size if you contribute $2 or more a month. Plus RPPR After Hours episode 2 will be coming soon. We've already recorded it. I've just been lazy.
Ross, it's okay. Yes. You're not lazy. You're swamped.
I am
There's
swamped.
a difference.
I am swamped.
One is, and the other one is more noble.
Yes.
So go with that one.
We also have blog posts, behind-the-scene blog posts. I've posted some fiction, Base Raiders fiction, and some of my notes from the Tribes of Tokyo game. So if you want to see how I originally wrote it out to explain it. And Tom, you're going to be having some stuff.
I am. Quite a long thing, actually.
Yes. It is a serialized... it's from what you're telling me, it's going to be novella length overall. But
yeah, it's kind of a serialized adventures of the lone surviving SS private in Divine Fire.
Yes. So get more about Grunwald and company.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
he's become my favorite character I've ever made, really.
And we can get in how you brought him to unlife, kind of. In the acting.
I don't know, because I don't think the ghouls in Lovecraft are actually dead.
I said
think
unlife.
Well, I just think they're a subspecies of...
They're
humanity.
Immortal.
They are immortal, but they're not
That kind of puts them in not...
But they're not undead.
I think they're undead.
I don't think...
I would classify them as undead. If you're immortal, you're usually undead. In a Lovecraftian universe. Or you're an alien super god. I mean, there's no... You can't be like...
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
That is a debate for another day.
Okay, yeah, that is another episode. Check out the Patreon. We have lots of rewards for people who are backing. I'm going to be running another game soon for Patreon backers. That will be an Eclipse Phase game, and then next month I'll have 2 more games, or maybe we'll get some of the other RPPR crew members to run games like Aaron or... Tom even, so we'll just see it. I know my new philosophy for these games is to make a meat grinder and kill as many player characters as possible.
You know what?
Yeah.
You're right. The last game, I totally should have done that.
Yes. Yes, you recently recorded it. You ran a game of Call of Cthulhu in Divine Fire, sort of.
It's related to it. I wouldn't call it a
direct sequel.
but it's It's in the universe.
Yes. Instead of GTA 3, it's GTA San Andreas.
Or Vice City.
Yeah, Vice City. So, anyways, in other news, also, I have a new PDF supplement out.
Supplement.
Yeah, this is the Tarot Gang. This is from Fainting Goat Games. They published it. They're also from the BAMF podcast. I've run Base Raiders demos for them. They asked me, "Hey, do you want to write some superhero stuff or supervillain stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
Write evil? Yeah.
So I challenged myself to come up with do a gang of villains, each with just a single theme. So I chose tarot cards, but I wrote them so where they were not necessarily mystical or super basically I wrote them in such a way that their powers could be stylized as mystical or as high tech or any number of ways. And so there's 6 of them. I based them on 6 of the major arcana. There's the Empress. There's the Emperor. The Devil. Well, no, I didn't choose him, but I did choose the Fool, the High Priestess. And each one has a gimmick. Like the Fool just has a natural luck. He just stumbles on whatever he needs to commit a heist.
So do you pity the Fool?
Yes. Well, no, you shouldn't, because he will win. And the High Priestess is a priestess of crime. She's a criminal crusader. She believes crime, is holy and obeying the law is a sin. So yeah. So I had a lot of fun writing this. Actually, it was a lot of fun. And so it's $2.99 on Drive-Thru RPG. If you need Fate accelerated villains, it's obviously it's Fate accelerated. It's easily adaptable to any other version of Fate. And I put a ton of plot hooks in it, and again, I just had a lot of fun. So, yeah, check it out. And then finally, more superhero stuff. Base Raiders Boiling Point is almost done. It's in final proofreading, typo hunting phase. The entire book is done. It's 86 pages.
The typo hunters.
Yes. You too can join the typo hunters. I'll for Kickstarter backers, I'll upload a new draft of the PDF. So you guys can download it and read it, and
you can see all of RPPR's characters.
Yes, the characters are done. The artwork for them is done. All the art is in. All the text is in. So yeah, I'm hooray! And so
He's literally this close.
Well, all I have to do now is just get all the proofread it, get the text as perfect as possible, and then prepare it for printing. And then you guys can get your books and PDFs,
and you will read things.
And then I'll get started. I've already started on Sparkles, but then I'll finish Sparkles and then finish the other supplements.
Oh, Sparkles!
Yeah.
Why are you so cute?
I had him in the RPPR Patreon game. It was called Paragon's Flower Shop, and he showed up because the players wanted to see what he was up to, and so he's just become a fixture in Base Raiders, much to Caleb's chagrin. So that is it for news.
And you know what? I think this would be a good transition to our main topic, because I think one of the reasons we like Sparkles is we love the voice you did and the way you played him, which is all about the acting.
Yes. So yeah, for those of you who haven't listened to Base Raiders PDFs, I very good artists are inspired by, great artists steal, and I totally stole Sparkle's voice from Metalocalypse, the character Dr. Roxo. So it's like, hey guys, what's going on?
No, he doesn't quite do cocaine.
No, he does pixie dust, literally pixie dust,
and that's better than cocaine.
Yeah, well, obviously, if you're a unicorn, unicorns have just they aren't even phased by cocaine.
No.
They're very large. You would need a lot.
They're horse sized.
Yeah, so
I have to do a lot of it. It'd have to be a Tony Montana sized pile of cocaine on a desk.
I kind of want to see that now. Tony Montana is a unicorn.
Well, that'd be another acting thing you'd have to try.
I know, exactly. So, so for me, just we can talk a little bit about acting in terms of examples of how we do it. So for me, Sparkles came about, he was obviously sort of a throwaway character in Bayou Beatdown, where the characters basically were infiltrating this base, and the bad guys were capturing magical creatures and basically hacking off body parts to use to make alchemist potions and drugs. Because that's how
basically what D&D players do.
Well, bad ones. Like the way magic items work in Base Raiders is you need something magical to make the item, and the easiest magical
creatures
are the magical ingredients. That's the easiest thing to find. It's a lot easier to find, hack off body parts of a magical creature than it is to find adamantium or something from another universe, obviously. So Sparkles was obviously crazy unicorn, and then so I just started talking in that voice. And just your reaction, I kind of fed off your guys' reaction to that. You're like, do we really, like, normally in a superhero, supervillain game, a creature like a unicorn is obviously good, and you're like, oh, well, we'll free him, he'll help us. But then you're like...
Which totally works, because, you know, the players made assumptions just as our characters were making assumptions. Like, oh my god, it's a unicorn. We have to free him. And then you know, I think we freed him, he's like, thank you.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, and that was...
like, oh, God, you're a crazy person, aren't you?
Yeah. And I fed off that. And so, like, so that sort of created this loop that really worked and turned Sparkles into such a memorable character.
Because I think the most memorable characters, they evolve on the spot.
I mean, yeah, you don't engineer them from the beginning, because... it's a lot of times when you do that, like, it falls flat on the game. Like, you can't predict how the table will react to a given character. Sometimes you try to make a memorable character from the very beginning, and the table's like, yeah, whatever, you know.
And other times you just did, that one homeless guy from Heroes of New Arcadia.
Yeah.
And you were just like, you didn't. Did you think that was we were going to latch onto that?
No. Again, like, it was just kind of and this is kind of the thing I do in games, that I come up with a simple shtick, especially when I'm game mastering. It's like each NPC that gets some sort of shtick, some sort of simple gimmick or quirk that makes it easy to role play as them. So you just take that little quirk and make that in kind of a defining characteristic. So for the homeless guy, I can't remember his name either, but he's kind of gruff, and he
made up words,
socio-political ramifications, anti-disestablishmentarianism of the people is what
Except they were fake words.
Yeah,
he was using.
Anti-disestablishmentarianism is an actual word.
That's what I meant. That's why I was saying. But his words, they were one.
Yeah, a lot of his wouldn't be made up, as I sort of mash words together. And so you guys love that, and so demanded that I keep role playing as him, and that worked.
Actually, that's pretty much the way I made up Grunwald. I guess my most famous character.
Yeah,
is like it really just started as a ghoul that still remembered being human.
Yeah, and that's the thing that was sort of struck me when I was playing, is that he's obviously set up as a monster, because he's behind the door. It's in a spooky environment, and it's just there's this foreboding sense in just with that alone. And then he just sort of talks, and he's very conversational and somewhat eloquent, and that contrast is that's one of the keys of acting and role playing is contrast, is to make something that is seemingly contradictory, but you can kind of work together. Because if you make a character that is nothing but cliche or stereotype, then
he'll be forgotten.
So something that plays against type, in other words, stands out better. This doesn't mean everyone has to be a unique, special snowflake.
Yeah, or in the case of the SS private.
Yeah.
He's you're like, the group is playing prisoners, and the one survivor that was actually able to help them was an SS private.
Right.
But he was still your Jew's like, I don't care. You're human and you're alive. It's like, here, have some guns.
Yeah. That creates an interesting situation right from the get-go. It's a new dynamic that we're not used to. And that's the kind of thing is also putting players at the table sort of in situations where they don't have a rote response. They just mechanical, if orcs are attacking us, we need to kill them. If orcs are having a tea party, we need to reevaluate the situation. And that's what leads to good role playing. I mean, even it's not even necessarily something that's like if the orcs are having a tea party, the players could have great role playing by just trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. This has to be a trap. Oh no, it's not. These are clearly renegade orcs, and we have to go and befriend them. And no. What if they're insane? What if a necromancer cursed them and they're just totally lunatics, and they'll just go berserk and attack us?
That's nice. I would I don't care what quest we're on. Yeah. I need to know what's going on here.
What is going on here? And
come on, as a GM, that'd be perfect. Just the crumpets are delicious.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so you and that's kind of the key. It's like role playing is improv theater at a table with dice. So it's, there's no you don't know how the play is going to end. The script is being written as you're enacting it. And so you can't there's sort of there's a very much a bottleneck in terms of like what you can get across. You can't get super sophisticated, super nuanced performances out of people because it's just, there's just not enough time or focus to do that.
It could be as little as 2 hours or you have basically 2 to 6 hours.
Well, some groups do it even longer. I've heard of groups doing like 12 hours all day marathons. But in that case, you have the players, wandering attention. So, you can't.
Dude, like we barely keep it together, and we do 4 average. At most.
Yeah, I mean, like our average game, I think, is about 3 hours.
Sometimes we go more.
Sometimes more, sometimes less. It's between 2 and 4 hours. I think that's why I say an average of 3. But I don't know. I mean, a lot of people try to get across too much in acting, and I think that's a mistake. In role playing, like you're trying to. I think there's a couple big dilemmas in role playing and acting, and one is, and I think the biggest one is trying to get too much across in a limited time.
Economy of time.
Yeah, there's a tyranny of time, really. Like, because I think a lot of players, and I know I've done this myself, where you make a character, you've in most systems, that takes at least an hour, probably 2.
Yeah.
Whether it's D&D, Call of Cthulhu, Trail of Cthulhu,
Palladium. You mentioned 2 hours. Like,
I was thinking Eclipse phase, because then you have skills and morphs and background.
Oh, I'd say
it takes some time.
With Eclipse phase, using that character generator, I can get done in less than an hour.
Well. I mean, yeah, but a lot of people, if you know what you want, but you have to go through the book to figure out what you want. So it takes time. And you also usually, at least for a campaign, maybe not for a one-shot, you want to have a backstory.
Yeah.
And
I usually think of a backstory even when I'm doing a one-shot.
Yeah.
But, it's the amount of detail I put into a backstory kind of directly predicates to how much time I know this game's going to go on.
I
think you just playing any character, you need to know a little bit about them.
Yeah, how they would react in a situation. Yeah. Even in the Divine Fire game we mentioned earlier, you gave me a character who's Hispanic. His name was Rico Fernandez or something like that, and I decided he was going to be a very waspish kind of character in that sense that his family, spoke accentless English, and he had grown up in that, and he was very sensitive to people who stereotyped him.
He goes, "Oh, hey, man! Like, are you actually actually Hispanic? Because if you're not, do not talk to me like that." Yeah,
exactly. And so he was very going to jump on anybody who tried to do that.
Yeah, and when I made the pre-gen, it's just numbers and a name on a page.
Yeah, random generated name. Mm-hmm. So. But anyway, so the whole point of this, of what I'm trying to get across, is that you spend some time thinking this character up by yourself, and you're imagining them, and you have all these ideas you want to get across. And the thing is, when you get to the table, there's at least one other person, the game master, and you usually, a couple other people. So there's like 4 or 5 people, and you're there for, even if it's a couple hours, you divide, 4 hours among 4 people. That's an hour per player at most. So how much can you get across? You can't get everything across.
No, you can't.
But a lot of people do. And they want to be special, especially a lot of players want to be special snowflakes. And that's the thing we kind of make fun of on RPPR a lot is I am an orphan and my parents were killed by ninjas and I was trained by a samurai who was also a vampire and I wear a trench coat and I'm also the last of my kind and I'm
last
psychic.
of the Highland Ninja Clan and the chosen one.
And I was reincarnated from Atlantean priests and I pilot a giant and you just go on and on how you're a and I have a scar across my face.
And there's a great story that goes to that scar.
Yeah.
And here it is.
Yeah. And so they want to they're so eager to get across everything.
They almost want to do an info dump on their character.
Yeah. And that's a mistake. If you want to get across that you're some sort of badass. Usually, most badasses are men of few or characters of few words, not necessarily men, but they're characters of few words, and their actions speak louder than their words.
Yeah, and they tend not to brag.
Yeah, some of them do. Most of them don't. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's Bill Maher said that he says to paraphrase, doing that is kind of like saying you have a big cock. If you have to keep saying it, odds are it's not true.
Right, and so you have this kind of situation, and it kind of detracts from the acting. Again, less is more. So you just kind of put a couple of those traits in every game. So the thing I want to maybe the takeaway of this episode would be: think of your character sheet, think of your backstory as a menu. And you have a lot of different options. So you could I'm an orphan. Oh, I've been trained by an undead samurai. And I've done this and this and this and this and this and this. And all these little traits and quirks. And I hate werewolves or whatever. And so in any given episode or game, choose a couple of those traits. Maybe it comes up organically, or you just decide I want to focus on this part of my character.
Yeah, in the case, maybe in the game, your group encounters a werewolf.
Yeah.
And you can use that to show, don't tell.
Exactly. Show, don't tell. But don't try to don't put the entire menu on the table, just pick and choose what you want. Because I think a lot of people think if I don't show what my character is doing, or I don't tell what my character is doing, or what he's about at all times, it's not true. If I don't let everyone know that I hate werewolves, then I don't hate werewolves, And that's not true. Just because you hate werewolves doesn't mean you don't have a rich and varied life. Otherwise, you're not.
If that's all you've got.
Yeah, then that says something about your character. But that's not that you hate werewolves. It's that you're obsessed with proving that you hate werewolves, which is an interesting quirk, but it's totally different than what you're thinking of. You know what I mean? Again, the guy who keeps going around saying, "Yeah, I've got a big cock." He's that says something about him. It's not that he has a big cock. It's that he has issues in his head he needs to work out.
And once again, I think this it's predicated to the length of the game.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Preston Crowley I think that was the most thought I put into a character.
Yeah.
Because I knew, okay, this is going to be a long campaign.
Yeah.
So I actually really thought of it. I really kind of thought, okay, why? I want to be a media darling, but why would I be an octomorph? And
yeah,
I planned this all out, but I knew I would have plenty of time to get this background out naturally.
Yeah.
So I didn't, I took a menu. I just chose little bits and kind of threw them out there, and I threw them out there when it was actually appropriate to do so.
Yeah. And also, another thing about Preston is that, not only did you work with the group worked with you. Caleb was a great game master because he used that. He took that and he gave us, as the entire group, opportunities to roleplay that. He based one adventure, the Selmatech thing, all on your character's backstory, which worked really well. And I really liked that.
And he also did the accusing my character of being an uplift Uncle Tom.
Yeah, exactly. A sellout, worse than a sellout. And that created an interesting dynamic as your character had to prove his authenticity to others or reevaluate whether he actually cared about that.
But I also think that's another good point you just brought up is is working with the group.
Yeah,
a lot of people, they when they think they're acting a character, they feel like they have to act some things, even if it's going to be detrimental to the group.
Yeah. Never be, it's not what my character would do, or it's what my character would do. Never be, and to justify doing something that's going to make the game suck. Never be that person. That is a terrible idea, because the thing is, even if your character, for example, you're the guy who hates werewolves, and then the adventure is such that you have to trust a werewolf in order to get out of the dungeon. There's a werewolf who knows the way out. He's the only one who knows the way out. Don't be the guy, I shoot the werewolf. Why? Well, because I hate him. Yeah, I hate him. But your character has is high intelligence, and he's not suicidal, so he knows that werewolf is his only way to live.
He wants out of the dungeon.
Yeah, he wants out of the dungeon. He can stomach that, and that's an interesting thing, an interesting dilemma to be forced to work with a werewolf.
Great scenes in movies is two mortal enemies actually having to cooperate.
Exactly, and so you're not negating that by having your character, work with that werewolf. It's creating better role playing, more memorable role playing.
There's a movie that comes out. You ever seen Enemy Mine? Louis Gossett Jr. and
Yeah, that's the one with like the starship pilots on the one's an alien, one's a human on a crash landing on a planet.
yeah, and they actually are forced to cooperate with each other.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, for the time, that was a good movie. It was a wonderful movie with some really great scenes. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like,
It's a classic trope. Yeah.
Mortal enemies having to cooperate is awesome.
Yeah. And never remember you are a player at a game, so never do something. No, don't try to justify it's what my character would do to create a situation that makes the game less fun. I mean, that's not just a role playing acting thing. That's just in general.
That's being
I feel I should bring it up because yeah.
But a lot of people would justify it because like, well, I'm acting in character.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
And I hate that excuse.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, that kind of depends on what the conventions, what's allowable for that particular game. I mean, if it's a darkly comedic or nihilistic game, like, say, Paranoia or a Warhammer 40K game where you're playing, oh, we won't, the Chaos Cultist may be the only one, the traitor may be the only one who can get us out, but screw that, kill the traitor.
It's like, because the Emperor demands it.
Yeah, yeah. In that case, that's fine, because that's the whole point of that setting, is that people are crazy and would do anything to...
I mean, come on, we turned Fury, the movie Fury, into a Warhammer thing.
It is a 40K movie. Yeah, the Nazis are as tenacious as orcs, in Helm's Deep. But anyway, that's more about Fury than anything else.
I know, but it's still wonderful.
It's still...
Dude, send me more pigs to kill.
God, it is entertaining.
Yeah. Sorry, that's just a thing.
And sort of... going along with that, don't negate other players' choices, especially if you're the GM. But in that situation, for example, if you're the GM, you might be tempted like, okay, the werewolf is the only one to get you out. What do? Well, I shoot him. Everyone will die if you do that. Well, so you don't do that. In that case, if you're the GM, on the other hand, you can't just say no, you don't do that. You decide to work along with him.
Because that's taking away player agency.
But on the other hand, you could say, well, on the other hand, you can't be a player and be like, well, I use diplomacy to make the player do what I want, to convince them, which is terrible.
God, you monster.
So in that situation, don't negate the choice by saying, for example, the player could say, well, I'll go with the werewolf now, but I'll tell him we're gonna have a fight when we get out. I'm gonna take him down. In that case, that's fine. The players get through the maze, which is the problem.
Most of the time in this trope, that's actually what happens.
Yeah,
he's like, I'll work with you now, but the moment we're out of here,
you're
going down.
Yeah,
and usually those fine by me.
Yeah.
And then often later,
but if you're the other players in that case, you can't be like, well, it's right before we get out, I trank dart my guy and drag him away, so we can't have the fight. You can't do that. Or you can't negate their choices because my character wants us to go along as a team and blah 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 blah. It's what my character would do. So you let him have his death match with the werewolf.
Yeah,
and probably get killed. I mean, depending on the setting. We don't know who's really tougher in that situation.
No, I mean, we're just playing mortals.
Yeah.
We're not going to help you, man.
Yeah, fuck that.
Come on, at this point, be like, hey, a werewolf, we're cool, though.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, oh, yeah, we're good.
Yeah, it depends on the setting. It depends on the game. But don't negate other choices. So if the player wants...
my God, if that was a Night's Black Agents game, and the vampire actually offers to help us out.
Right.
And then the one's like, hey, vampire, we have no problem with you right now. Are we cool?
Yeah.
And I'd love to see a vampire like, oh yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
I'm just this guy needs to die.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So don't negate other players' choices, even if it's something problematic, as long as it's not game breaking. Yeah. So let him have his deathmatch.
And I also think another thing that can often come up is acting in character and stepping over other players.
Yeah, and also this is basic table etiquette. Don't talk over other players, which happens sometimes.
It does happen, yeah.
And it's really...
We're not going to name names.
It's really... it happened, sometimes, especially con games, it's hard not to do that because... And I know it's really hard not to do that during online games because you're not actually in person with each other.
So you can't do the Ross death stare.
Yeah.
I
have a death stare?
No, of course not.
Yeah.
You don't. But I was just saying if you did.
A theoretical death stare. Anyway, but yeah, don't talk over the people. Be aware of the other players, and if you look around them, look at their body language.
Look around you.
Look around you, and if it looks like somebody wants to talk, stop talking and let them talk.
Especially if an NPC is directly addressing them.
Yeah. Don't butt in, if the werewolf wants to talk to the guy before they have their death match, be like, well, werewolf, I know about your history and your tribe and blah, 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 blah. How about this? And the werewolf is like,
he's like, who are you? He's like, dude, go away.
I'm trying to talk to the guy I'm just going to kill. I want to specify how we're going to have a duel.
Because you have the werewolf because I've sworn vengeance upon all redheaded people and you have red hair.
Yeah.
It hurts. Oh, it hurts when it's done to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're gonna have these duel to Yorkshire style rules where we're gonna be 50 feet away. We're gonna draw a line. So
and choose your weapons hand to hand. Oh, come on.
So, but yeah, don't be the guy who keeps butting in. Don't let other people talk. Yeah. Make sure everybody gets a turn.
Even if you have think you have something really cool or funny to say at that moment, resist. If you see an opening where people they seem to have the conversation is either at a close or there's a natural pause. Yeah, then do something. But if there's a conversation going on.
Yeah. If there's no space. Yeah.
There's no space. Yeah. You'll get your turn.
Yeah. And that it's hard to keep a track, but yeah, be aware of other people. Don't. And try not to hog and going off that, don't try to hog the spotlight. It's very, again, with certain character types,
with certain actors, it's they can't stand to not be the center of attention.
Yeah, chew the scenery up. Tasty scenery.
We'll get there's always going to be more scenery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let other people dude, don't be a pig. Let other people have some scenery too.
Yeah, it's. Annoying, and again, this is a game to not just entertain other people, but to be entertained.
Yes.
Step back and let other people do their shtick, because it could be funny, it could be awesome. The guy could have a great one-liner before he charges the werewolf.
The kind of one-liner where the game actually has to take a break.
Yeah.
For a moment, for 5 minutes, because people are laughing so hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Which are what the moments you remember.
Or the guy just I spin all my fate points, or I spin all my weapon skill, I go again, I blah, 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 I one-shot the werewolf. And it's just holy shit, did you just do that?
Yeah. Or, just, when you're, when you have to have an NPC talk and you're just ripping through your head and you just come up with a voice yes.
Yeah.
You never know when you're going to make a legend.
Yeah, exactly. So, in terms of, and actually getting into the craft of acting for role-playing, voice helps, certain...
An accent.
Verbal tics, yes, or talking like Dr. Rock, hey, guys.
Or just talking... I try to make, a raspy voice. That's what I did with Grunwald. Just, he's still articulate, even though he's speaking through a mouth that can't speak human languages anymore.
Yeah. And, for sometimes it could be very understated. You don't have to. This is acting in role playing games is a very broad thing in just period. Yeah. But that doesn't mean you can't. You have to be ham it up all the time.
Also, I think know your strengths.
Yeah.
Don't try to do an accent you can't do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yes, because
you do a good German accent.
Well, thank you. At best, it's just going to come off as kind of weird. At worst, it can come off as racist or insensitive.
Oh yeah. Don't be that guy.
I think it was Dan, Fuzzy Dan. Our group said he once played a Japanese character.
Yeah. And
decided, I'm not going to try to do a Japanese accent.
Right.
Because I'm not very good at it, and also it's going to. He says, and really, my idea of my idea of a Japanese accent is adding a U to the end of every word.
Yeah.
Which is not the way it is.
No. Well, again, it can be understated. For example, Aaron's been running some Atomic Robo games, and my character, based on a suggestion from the RPPR Facebook group, my character is a human who thinks he's a robot. Andy D. Roy.
It's impossible to convince him otherwise.
Well, I'm spoiler alert. I'm planning at some point to break down and just have a like, I'm sorry. Like, the reason he thinks he's a robot because there's some horrible accident, everyone got killed, and he just had a psychotic breakdown and blah blah blah. And if the opportunity comes up, I just want to have some kind of scene where I like finally have a brief moment of sanity. And then
basically kind of test the waters of sanity and like, nope, don't like it. Going back in.
At the end of the scene, I'm back to being a robot. Like, oh yeah, that was a buggy, weird.
Just occasionally just put your toe in the water and see of sanity. Like, nope, it's too cold.
Nope. Want that security blanket of not being human. But the thing is, the reason I brought it up is the way I role play him is I do it as a very sort of understated, like very sort of like, oh yeah, yes, we should do this. Just like cold. Obvious, cold, and just state the facts as much as possible. But call people on their bullshit as much as possible.
Just the facts, man.
Yeah. Just, in fact, it has a really good rapport with your character because I call people on their bullshit a lot, and like I bring up, HR policies and like, oh yeah, no, we accept defectors all the time. He used to be a Nazi. And
I'm actually playing, a humanoid dinosaur that was once a human Nazi scientist during World War II, I feel quite guilty and remorseful about being that, and I get really in fact, I more play a ex-Nazi scientist who's remorseful than I do a dinosaur.
Yeah, and it works. Mm-hmm. And it also works because my character also goes off of that and says, "Oh yes, unleash your bloodlust." I mean, you can barely contain it.
He's like, I don't have a bloodlust.
Yes, you do. Yes, clearly, I can see it in your eyes. You should go. Destroy your foes. Let loose your animal rage. It is fine.
You're and even I'm like, oh, that poor guy.
Yeah.
It's like I feel sorry for him. Which I think we should almost get drunk later in the game.
Oh yeah, no, clearly.
And it's like like just crying into each other's shoulders.
And again, that goes back to working with a group. Like. Together, our characters have a shtick, and individually we have a shtick,
But we don't do it all the time.
Right. It just has that little moment, and then it goes back to let, David and Dan and Drew, whoever else is there, to do their thing.
Yeah, and I think Aaron also, when he's doing his NPCs in the game, I think he knows his strengths. Like, he was playing Japanese characters.
Yeah.
But he doesn't try to do an accent.
Right. And that's another thing about accents. And also playing characters who aren't like you. Mm-hmm. Again, don't do accents. And also, if you're playing someone of the opposite gender, don't feel like you have to try to get the same pitch. Like if I do a woman or a girl, I try not to.
No, you just talk.
Yeah, just talk. I mean, I may parse it like if I'm playing a girl, I'm just like, hi. A little softer. Like, hi, how are you?
But you don't try to...
I'm not doing a falsetto.
Don't try to be a woman.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a clue.
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of again the voice, like I can't do a falsetto like that.
I can't either.
Yeah. So, but that again, some of the best acting is playing against type.
Come on, Ross, we're manly men.
Yeah. But Tom, you did a really good job in Invasive Procedures, where you played an amnesiac like young woman, and again that way you just played it kind of soft and like. I don't know.
I just kind of thought she doesn't have any idea who she is, so she's definitely not going to be assertive, because it's. I play her kind of withdrawn, but also, if she's offered a chance to maybe learn something else about her, she'll latch onto it. But I thought just play her soft and reserved, a little frightened, but when the right carrot's dangled in front of her, she can really be. A go-getter.
Yeah.
And basically, I just kind of the only thing I did with being a woman was I just reminded myself, my character is a woman.
Yeah. It depends on what kind of game you're doing, and we in the future we'll do some more episodes talking about gender and
also the
diversity.
And I think it also depends on the setting too.
Yeah.
Like if I was playing a woman, say in like feudal Japan, I would have played her a lot different.
Sure.
Because especially if all the other players were male, I'd have to be utterly just subservient and agreeing to.
Well, I mean, you can do that, but again, you could also play against type, and it depends on the kind of game you're doing. Because I know, like, if you're doing Legend of the Five Rings, they have female characters who are warriors and sorceresses. I'm not that familiar.
Oh, but actually, another good example when I was playing that Centurion character in Invictus.
Yeah.
I was playing like I'm playing a Roman soldier.
Yeah.
Like I am double Y chromosome. kill for my emperor.
Yeah. Almost like a 40K character.
Imagine that.
So again, it's role playing. I mean, that's the whole joy of it, is pretending to be someone else and having fun with it. And that's the whole thing. You have a lot to choose from, but you can't get it all across at once.
No.
And again, talking about, for me, just going back, you're talking about characters and gender and stuff like that. I tend to run more pulp or high-ended games where that isn't emphasized as much. Like Master and I Loathed Up, which I'm running, set in 1925. And I'm not really pushing that kind of stuff too hard. I mean, it comes up like male characters hit on the male NPCs hit on the female PCs, and that kind of thing. But it's also a game where characters are murdering cultists by the dozen, and we're having fun with it. That's the important thing.
And with me, like, my favorite thing to role play is non-human characters.
Yeah,
but I always still kind of make them human.
Yeah,
just
I mean, you can't make them too alien, otherwise, like, well, I emit some pheromones and harvest energy.
The kind of monsters I like to do.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm playing a Shoggoth.
Yeah.
I like, how would you role play that? Like,
Prototype.
Just
have you played the video game Prototype?
No, but I've seen it played.
Yeah, that's basically a Shoggoth. So be that guy.
But when it comes to sentient aliens and other creatures, I love playing them.
Yeah. And it's about having fun, and if you can have that kind of different mindset, that's always fun. Like the outsider looking in on a culture and re-examining its priorities and assumptions. So there's a lot of entertainment to be had out.
But once again, you have to act in the group.
Yeah.
It comes back. Be a team player.
Be a team player. I think that kind of gets over some of our main thoughts on acting.
So. Acting!
The craft. Treading the stage.
The stage of the table.
Yeah. And it's not really. Anyway, it's a loose analogy. So next up, of course, Tom has the letter.
I do.
And then we will have shout-outs and anecdotes and all that kind of good stuff. So
it is good stuff.
Yes. And
tasty
we'll be right back.
A regular listener of the podcast will know, I am a person who likes to ask questions. This has been a huge part of my psyche since a very early age. Sometimes these questions were not liked by the people involved in my life. There was the Sunday school teacher who didn't appreciate me asking, how can all the animals be made in one day when there are 65 million years of dinosaurs before us? And some of these questions are completely inane, like looking at a hotel bill and asking, what the hell is a resort fee? But now I would like to pose a question to D&D. Who is more screwed in a D&D world, mortals or gods? This question might seem pretty straightforward. Of course the gods have it made. They have ultimate power. They exist forever. They hold sway over the affairs of mortals. In effect, they make up large parts of the planes by the sheer power of their will. With all that going for them, it would seem clear that mortals have it much worse. However, I put forth to you that this argument is completely backwards. In the worlds of D&D, mortals have far more power than the gods. First of all, let's look to the end. In this case, death. Mortals, of course, die when their time is up. And though it is rare, gods can die too. But what happens after death? In the case of mortals, their soul travels to the realm of their god, or to the plane that represents their alignment. In the former, souls can become servants of the gods. In the latter, they eventually become outsiders native to the plane they dwell in. Regardless, they exist on forever. When gods die, they vanish. They do not move on. They are no more. As to the gods' vaunted power, where does it come from? It comes from the worship of mortals. That's right, gods rely on mortals for all their power. And who do you think it is that carries out the will of the gods on the material plane? Mortal servants. Without mortals, gods would be unable to influence the world. Finally, there is the matter of freedom. Gods, for all their power, must still abide by primeval pacts. There are laws that gods cannot break. Mortals have no pacts they must abide by. They are free to do as they want, at least as long as they are alive. Mortals have the power to do things gods cannot. Just think about all this the next time you are in a D&D campaign. Know that your characters are the ones who are truly free. Remember that when your party encounters an avatar of Demogorgon in some dark temple. Your mortal character can actually shake their head sadly and say, "Poor God, he will never know the freedom like I do."
That was a very good letter there, Tom.
Well, thank you, Ross.
And I like to think that mortals, with all that infinite freedom, choose to become murder hobos.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
It's the choice of a new generation. And the old generation. And the generation before that.
Yes. It is a tradition. So, this shout-out brought to you, this part of the episode, along with everything else, is made possible in part by listeners like Noah Carden, who is one of our Patreon
Noah
backers.
Carden.
He's one of our $25 a month.
Thank you.
And also Warlord Sports.
Warlord
Some
Sports.
quality LARPing gear,
Thank you.
Yes. That's again one of the perks of that is getting that.
You're the wind beneath my wings.
Wow. All right.
I'm just saying things now.
We use this money to also, for example, to get a new audio interface, a pre-Sonus.
It is so technological.
22 VSL, which is very nice. It's the first one you've had a new one in 6 years.
There's not a red light on this one.
No.
There is a blue light.
It is a blue light.
It is blue.
Well, it has a microphone preamp built into it. Like before, I used a Tascam US 122L audio interface with a Mic Buddy preamp. So I know you really care a lot about.
I'm listening, aren't I?
Yeah. But this, I don't need two pieces of gear. I can get it all in this one.
And as we all know, blue stars are hotter than red ones, so this is clearly better.
Yes, thank you. That's a good way of putting it. So let's get on to some shout-outs.
Let's do.
Yeah, first, of course, Tarot Gang, as I mentioned before, and that I'll put a link up there.
Yeah,
the thing I wrote.
I think...
but first off, the real first shout-out we should talk about.
Yeah, it's that we both have to talk about.
It's a book that we both read, and Aaron read as well, called The Disaster Artist.
Oh, my God.
So, Tom, what is The Disaster Artist
Well,
about?
it is written by Greg Sestero, who played Mark in The Room.
Yeah.
And, also, by the way, I actually recently just watched Retro Puppet Master just to...
You did? Where'd you find it?
I found it at, Entertain Mart.
Oh, so you own the copy?
I own the copy.
Oh, I'll have to borrow that from
And I'll tell you what, he's not bad. He's actually pretty good in it. One of the few things that are pretty good, obviously. I mean, I love the original movie.
Yeah.
But, it's a much, much later sequel.
Yeah.
But he was pretty good.
Nice.
But this book, The Disaster Artist, is about him meeting Tommy Wiseau, his relationship with him, and the filming of The Room.
Yes. And Greg Sestero
we've spoken about The Room at length.
Yes, Greg Sestero plays Mark.
The best friend.
The best friend.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark.
And
yeah.
I had some suspicions of what working with Tommy Wiseau might have been like.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It is a glorious train wreck. So first off, obviously, you should, if you haven't seen The Room, see The Room.
Yeah.
Riff Tracks or not. There is a Riff Tracks version. If not, just watch it without. Alcohol is good.
I will actually say,
with friends.
It is a unique experience.
It is. And then read the book. And then read about it on the internet. I've been reading, I started, there's on Something Awful forums, there's a whole thread about The Room.
Sure.
On the Cinema Discussant Forum, and they go on for 100 people. They still do midnight screenings of The Room, like in LA and other places. And Tommy Wiseau and Greg show up to these on occasion. And Tommy Wiseau has taken to he will autograph your copy of The Disaster Artist. He will scratch out the name of the co-writer of the book, because it was Greg Sestero and some other guy.
That wrote us some other books.
Yeah. And he calls it the Red Bible. Tommy Wiseau calls The Disaster Artist the Red Bible.
And at times I'll say
because the cover is red.
And the book is not sometimes flattering to Tommy Wiseau.
No.
But he's still... Yeah,
he is a crazy person. He is just my personal theory is he has bipolar disorder. He has legitimate brain damage, because he mentions about being in a car wreck. And so I think after that he just got bipolar disorder, and so he just his moods swing wildly from being super overly enthusiastic and joyous to
totally sullen and lost,
insecure and paranoid. There's it gets really dark, especially that car ride between Greg and Greg and Tommy.
But yeah, just talk about him. He can't remember not just difficult lines. He can't remember basic lines.
Yeah, which again goes in with my whole brain damage theory. So. But he got it made, and if you look on the internet right now, he still owns a building in San Francisco that's worth over $1 million. And so he's still
he financed the whole thing.
Yes, he financed the whole thing, and it's just sort of only in America kind of story.
Yeah, I guess it's really it's something. I remember Patton Oswalt said something when he was on the Pete Holmes show.
Yeah.
And he was talking, he briefly mentioned working on Blade Trinity.
Yeah.
Which he said, if you just watch the movie, it is an F-bomb piece of crap movie. But if you knew what it took to get that movie made, all the insanity we had to go through, it is an A-plus cinema event. I think it's the same thing with The Room.
Yeah.
Once I knew what went on to make that movie, I'm not saying I like it now.
Yeah.
I can respect it now.
As an interesting perspective.
I would think, I can actually just, this wasn't just a movie to Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, it was.
This was his life.
Yeah, because Tommy spent decades or years and years trying to break it into Hollywood. He was already rich, but this was some obsession, some Ahab quest to get into movies, and he obviously couldn't get in because of his accent, his appearance, just his
demeanor.
Many factors. And when Greg easily got in, landing such plum roles
as Retro Puppet Master and Days of Our Lives as a somewhat recurring character,
it pushed Tommy to go into this. So I don't want to spoil everything about the book.
But no, it is funny.
Yeah.
Greg Sestero. Oh, and there's actually talk of making a movie on it.
No, it's in pre-production.
Oh, is it?
It is.
Is it now?
James Franco and Seth Rogen are going to do it. James Franco is going to play Tommy Wiseau,
and I imagine Seth Rogen will be. I could see him playing Greg Sestero. Kinda.
I don't know. Maybe. We'll find out.
Or maybe.
I'm looking forward to it.
I am too.
It could. I mean, the thing is, you can't just make it a sappy comedy, because Tommy is it's dark. That book gets dark, and
but there are times Sestero worried that he was a psychopath.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the kind of thing you have to deal with when you're dealing with somebody like Tommy. There's an audiobook version actually narrated by Greg Sestero, who does a killer Tommy impression. There's samples of it on the internet, and so I think we've talked about it. It's a hilarious book, and I don't know, fascinating.
And if you haven't seen The Room by now, why?
Yeah, Jesus, it's a great piece of outsider art.
Yeah, I remember I had no idea what it was when you first made us.
Yeah.
It was not the Riff Tracks version.
Yeah,
it was just the movie, and I'm like this. No, this guy. I mean, it was during the credits. I was like, no, this guy. Oh my god. And and I'm not even. I don't even know much about filmmaking. But even when I first saw the rooftop, they have a green screen on the roof. What is happening here?
Yeah.
And then I think my favorite. Let's just put this book is not just, but him talking about the other actors, like the poor guy that played Denny.
Yeah.
Or how just everyone. Or
Chris R's story is pretty.
Oh my god! Just that. That Tully was actually afraid of him.
Yeah. There's a lot. Again, it's a rich tapestry.
It is a rich tapestry.
So I think,
very rich.
I think we've.
You should buy this book right now.
Yeah. So in other books, I finished recently a horror novel, which you can actually download an EPUB version of it for free. Legitimately, this is not a pirated version. It's called The Light at the End.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 1986 splatterpunk vampire novel. It is credited with beginning the splatterpunk movement in horror.
Nice.
So it's about basically a vampire that starts killing people in New York City, and this sort of motley crew of like bike messengers and artists and working class people get together to kill him because it's a very scary vampire. And it's a very dark novel. It gets very graphic. It's not something, if you're sensitive to, it's. Yeah, in terms
Epithets.
Well, no, I'm talking about like depictions of like violence, like sexual violence and things like that. Yeah, like it gets very dark, and it's also it's homophobic. I mean, it was written in 1986.
Well, come on, Ross.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read 50 Shades of Grey. How bad could it be? But by the way, no, I totally haven't read that book.
Well, it's more honest because it depicts the assaults as bad. Not as like the vampire.
Not
is
as
not
charming.
Romantic. The vampire is a very interesting villain. He is basically a punk who doesn't know what he's doing, and so
it's kind of like it's how James Woods described vampires in John Carpenter's Vampires.
Yeah.
Like they're not romantic.
Yeah, he's very predatory. I mean, at first he seems to be, but like later on he gets more and more deranged. But it's interesting because the depiction of vampires, one, like vampires can take drugs in this version, so like this vampire takes speed to stay up, which is very interesting, and it's a well-crafted narrative, but again it's a product of its time, and there's like very graphic and very in parts homophobic. Like there's a comic relief character who's basically a flaming stereotypical gay guy.
Like hello,
and, yeah, exactly. Guy. Yeah. It's very like, oh my god, and just there are parts of the novel where it pulled me out, but like.
But it pulled you back in, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to finish it, and it was worth it. So again, it's free, and it's again a great in terms of the structure and how the hunt proceeds, because they're dealing with like 1980s. They don't have cell phones, and they're not working with the police, so they're like, well, we'll go to subway stations and we'll use beepers to like call payphones to call it in. It's
payphones.
Yeah. So there's a lot of gameable stuff in it, and it's
nice.
I've
been watching some stuff.
Yeah.
People that know anything about me knows I love me some stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And Netflix has provided me quite a few ones I've never heard of before. But the first one I watched a show, Tom Segura. The name of the show is, I believe, Perfectly Normal, and he's a comedian I've never heard of until I just saw him on the Netflix queue. I had an evening to kill with my cat in a cone that I unable to do anything, so I had to watch her all the time.
Yeah,
and he was great. He also talks about Steven Seagal, which I thought I haven't heard a comedian talk about him since the 90s, and it was about him as he is now on that show where he's a cop.
Yeah.
Which apparently is, I can't bring myself to watch an episode of it.
Well, I think they stopped that show after he was charged with like human trafficking.
Well, that I did not know.
Yeah, so. He was got some terrible things he's been accused of doing. So yeah.
Well, but yeah, this Tom Segura is definitely a guy you should check out. I think this show was his first one.
Yeah. All right.
So look, I say keep an eye out for him if he does anything else.
If you have Netflix,
if you have Netflix, watch it. Go ahead and watch it.
Very good. And speaking of entertaining things, I've mentioned this before on the podcast because I met the people who made this game last year at PAX East. But the game is out in early access. Darkest Dungeon is a Lovecraftian dungeon crawling game, and it's got elements of XCOM because instead of you being one person, you're this estate owner who hires adventurers and you send them out in teams to go kill monsters and clear out this estate that that's infested with monsters. And the thing is, you have sanity as well as hit points, and so characters can go crazy. They can get diseases and
mental afflictions.
Yeah, it's roguelike in the sense that there's no save states. If your character dies, he dies. That's it.
Also, isn't it? Syphilis does not prevent you from going into the brothel.
Yeah, the brothel there's like different places you can send characters to recover their sanity. The brothel is one of them. If you get deviant tastes, you're not allowed in the brothel, though. It doesn't specify what those tastes are, but it must be pretty bad. If the guy with the syphilis can come in, if the leper is allowed into the brothol, which
is a class, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a character class. But the guy with the deviant tastes, those must be pretty extreme. So that's... it's out. It's $20 on Steam Early Access. Caleb, Aaron, and I have all played it. Well, had a lot of fun with it. Caleb, I think, had worse luck with the random number generator than I have. But it's a hell of a game. And they're still in development, so it'll be complete in 6 months. So
right,
it'll be worth it to play it then. Let's see here. You had another stand-up.
I do.
Yeah.
There's two guys I discovered. Another guy is Gary Goldman.
Yeah.
He's a great comedian, and what I like, what turned me on to him, because one of the first things he says is he shares a sentiment I had for a long time, which he said, I love Netflix. He said the main reason I love it is that it brought Blockbuster to its knees. He's like, rot in hell, Blockbuster.
Wow.
With your ridiculous late fees and criminal just definitions of what represents a new release.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was never happier than when Blockbuster kicked it.
Wow.
Because I had a lot of late fees.
Ah.
It's pretty handy when the company you owed late fees to no longer exists.
Yeah. Well, you're the reason why.
Oh, clearly it's me.
Partially.
But yeah, he's a really good comedian. Once again, he's got a great delivery style.
Yeah.
That's one I think really important thing. To me, Stephen Wright had one of the greatest deliveries. Just totally flat
deadpan. Yeah. That's very true. To be fair, I also had late fees, but to a grocery store for renting video games because I kept Final Fantasy II.
Oh shit! Yeah. Back in the days of the SNES when you could rent those games.
Yeah. And I kept it until I beat it, so racked up quite a bit, and so couldn't rent from that grocery store anymore until it went under. So hooray! Got out from under that.
It's like, thank you, economy.
Yeah. Pretty much. Finally, I do want to mention a movie because the Oscars. This was not an Oscar-nominated movie, but I think it's a very entertaining movie called The Guest. And the best way I've heard it described is, what if Captain America was a dick? Because basically this guy shows up to this family's house, and he's like, I knew your son. He was in my unit. I was with him when he died. He wanted me to go and check on you guys. He was thinking about you until the
yeah.
day.
Actually, I've heard of this movie.
Yeah, I sent you the trailer. I think I'm pretty.
I've seen the trailer.
Yeah, and you're just like, and the woman in the first scene is like, wait, I don't see a car. We're out kind of a ways out. How'd you get here? Like, oh, I just ran from the bus station. You ran. Yeah, could I have some water? And he just drinks a huge glass of water in one go. I'm like, okay. So
red flags should be going up.
Yeah, no, that's normal to run with a duffel bag for 10 miles without breaking into a sweat. But he ingratiates himself into the family, and then you're not sure exactly where the movie goes, but it goes in a delightful direction, and it's highly entertaining. Lance Reddick is in there as the guy hunting him, and he is the soldier himself. The main character just does the Captain America shtick, very very polite, even when he's doing something really violent. Because guess what he does?
He does violence.
He does violence. It's got a great soundtrack, very much like Drive or Hotline Miami, very 1980s synthwave kind of inspired. And the ending, the third act, just goes off the rails. I don't want to spoil it, but it just goes fucking nuts, and in a great way.
Okay, good.
It's great, and yeah, it's a great little movie, and it's very entertaining. So, yeah,
fantastic.
What else do I need to say? Jesus,
go watch it.
Yeah, it's competently made, unlike The Room, but yeah. So, that's
Probably no crew rebellions.
Yeah, probably not. Anecdotes. We've been playing a lot of games.
Yes,
lately.
we have.
Aside from your Divine Fire game, there's also Master Knight of Lothotep, which I've been running. Caleb was actually in a game.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, just as a guest character because it was you schedules, the stars finally aligned. He was able to show up on a Saturday. We have also Aaron's been running Atomic Robo, and I have also been running Duality Eclipse Phase. I'm wrapping up the campaign, trying to wrap it up because it's been going on long enough. And the last chapter we did was the Extropia adventure, and I've been looking forward to that just to have some fun with it because Extropia is literally described as space libertarian paradise. And
yeah, guess what? It's not.
It is.
Well, I'm sorry.
It wasn't until you guys
That's its
showed
problem. Up. It was.
And if you read the description in Rimward, it's basically you have to sign contracts and pay for legal protection and everything. So all these corporations pay, do this stuff, and they have negotiated with each other. And so the way it works out for libertarians who hate government and bureaucracy, there's actually a huge amount of bureaucracy in there. It's just if you have a lot of money, you can pay for it to go away. That's the main thing they offer. Is that I thought that was a very interesting way because the way it worked out is you guys showed up. Firewall gave you a basic package of here's your legal protection, here's your rental apartment, here's all this shit. So now go and investigate, find out the thing.
Right.
And then you discovered... Well, what did you discover, Tom, while you were investigating?
2 words that are going to grate on my nerves from now until eternity. Microtorts.
Yes, microtorts. So microtorts are described in Rimward as basically super fast, super small lawsuits that are processed automatically by AIs whenever an infraction happens. And so it's very, very minor. And so your basic legal. So it's basically just getting a fine for bumping into someone or startling someone or any number of things.
Brushing up against someone's vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. So microtort. And it's done so fast you don't have a chance to defend yourself. Your muse talks to their muse.
But your insurance covers it.
Yeah. And so you just microtort. I had characters make free fall checks, and I succeed. Oh, you get a microtort because you jumped in front of somebody, and that startled them. So,
but you can do the same thing to them too.
Yeah, I actually don't think you guys ever instigated.
No, because we were actually busy.
Yeah,
trying to stop Titans.
But I had a lot of fun with it.
Yes, you did.
It was a lot of fun to just randomly slam you with microtorts throughout the adventure. Also, because of Space Libertarian Paradise, you guys did have a gunfight out on the edge, hanging on the side of the habitat out in space. And then, so you're getting outgunned, and so I had a missile vendor show up and would you like to?
Hey, we noticed you're having some trouble.
Yeah.
Would you like to rent a seeker rifle
with some ammo? And you guys did, and that was funny. So I like that because I figured Space Libertarian.
Would you like to know more?
Yeah, would you like to know more? Would have a lot of these flash vendors who would just show up because they figured out a good business model. Because
it is in a sci-fi game, and I'd love to see that in Star Wars.
Yeah,
in some fight with stormtroopers, and this floating droid just shows up. It's we notice you're outgunned by these troops. Would you like to rent an automatic blaster rifle?
Yeah.
Oh my god! My God, that's a brilliant business strategy.
And it was very fashionable and trendy, so their trends happened very quickly. And so I had
a gangster trend going on.
1920s gangster, because again, I've been running Mask and I loathed it, but also meat guns and Tommy guns. And God, and then you had a great idea.
Yeah, essentially, I created a talking, still bleeding, severed horse's head.
Yeah.
As a pod.
Yeah, Podmore, so robot skeleton.
Yeah, my character's a expert morph designer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I came up with I created a pod horse's severed head.
Yeah.
That still bled.
Yeah.
And talked.
Yeah.
And that would spout off words my owner really should have agreed to give that guy that role. That was dumb of him.
So yeah, and that made you the belle of the ball kind of for a while.
For a little while. Fame is fleeting.
Yes. But then the bad guys realized you were getting too close, so paid a publicity firm to ruin your reputation.
And I didn't have enough to redeem it and then get them back.
Yeah, that was...
I should have asked Firewall, hey, I need some money so I can get my reputation back and also thoroughly crush them.
Yeah. But a lot of things were happening at that point, so
Yeah, we were busy.
they were like tricking the ultimate.
Yeah, and there's another thing I really liked is when you actually let me meet with like an old colleague of mine.
Yeah.
And I was in a steel morph, and he's like, you're still doing that synth phase,
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, which I don't know if this was a thing in the book, but like we went to go to this restaurant, like, well, yeah, we have these little things you can insert which will let you simulate the taste.
I
of
made
food.
that up. That's
figured, awesome.
Yeah,
it was like if you're in a synth body, but you're going to a dinner with somebody.
Yeah,
you can actually just insert these little chips that will give you the taste of eating certain food.
Yeah, I figured they would do that. I mean,
and it was awesome.
Yeah, as long as they could charge as much as for the real foods.
Pretty much. That's not my dime.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something to look forward to after the Jovian chapter finishes up. We got 2 or 3 more sessions of that to be posted. And then...
I still hated the Jovians way worse than I hated the Extropians.
I don't know why you guys hate the Jovian. Oh, wait, yeah, no, you guys...
Yeah, it's exactly...
Yeah, no, you had justifiable reasons. I like that, running that chapter, though, because that was... interesting because again the whole point of duality was just being a tour of gate crashing and the outer system, so I wanted to hit every major system, and I mean you could do an entire campaign in any one of those systems,
Yeah, and sorry, every time I think of the Jovians I now just think of Kim Jong-un. I'm sorry, Kim Jong-Pugsley.
Oh man, so harsh.
Yeah, but I just think of him. I know like it's not even really like that.
Yeah, but it is interesting. And he is an evil man. So, and a murderer. But
yeah.
Anyway, so this,
and dude,
yeah,
dangling a robot and a helpless.
Oh yeah, the sympathy monster. Yes.
Sympathy monster.
Yeah, I need to have more of those. But I mean, I have to figure out a way to give you guys some. Like Aaron's easy to target with that, but I don't know what.
Yeah, like a helpless AGI that is
like
being
a helpless crocodile guy is getting attacked by a mob.
Except they don't. I wonder, like, wait, what the fuck are you?
Well, in a different game, like Base Raiders, like if there's a crocodile guy being chased,
No, yeah, oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I'd be playing Foot High Science guy, so like if he's being chased by a bunch of like guys in armor with guns, like, hey, you better stop, or I'm gonna lightly kick you in the shin.
Well, you could science something up.
Like, well, can't you magic them away? Like, no more than you could science them away.
So anyways, this has been RPPR episode 111, and the Nat 20 goes to Acting in Games. And our sponsor for this episode was Easy Roller Dice. Remember, you can 10% off using coupon code RPPR on their website. And they have free shipping in the U.S. for a lot of dice.
If you need dice, like there you go.
I like the free velvet bag. Like that sounds like. I mean, you don't have to.
That is a perk. Yeah, that is a perk you want to do.
You don't have to get Royal Crown to get a dice bag. Which is,
yeah. Or I've seen some of the prices they charge for dice bags in game stores.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're like $20 on their own. So I mean, you might as well get some dice. With
like, does this thing will this thing give me a massage at the same time or something?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm Ross Payton.
I am Tom Church,
and we'll talk to you guys next time.